Greetings, dear viewers. On December 4th, 2021, an unprecedented event took place, the conference Global Crises, Time for the Truth. It was organized and conducted by volunteers of the Creative Society Project and simultaneously translated into 100 languages. This is a symbol of the unification of the entire humanity. The conference aimed at highlighting the climatic changes, the dramatic state of the ecology of our planet, as well as the human suffering in the profit-oriented society, which of course is also greatly increased with this event. Today, we would like to continue this vital dialogue with our guests. Yes, welcome all guests in today's discussion are Stanislav Walter, he is educational assistant. Benjamin Snaikus, technical, so he has learned IT, systems electronics, and Julia Medinta, he is a geriatric nurse. Welcome and thank you for sharing. Thank you for being with us today. A large amount of material was collected to this conference from all over the world, and well-known speakers contributed to present this material to explain it, which shows the realities of our time. And we would like to ask our guests, who also watched the conference, what significance did it made for you, and what did you learn for yourselves? What impressed you the most? Benjamin?
Yes, I first learned about the creative society through social media, the social media platform TikTok, and I was very impressed by all the guidelines that I could look up on the website. And these guidelines should definitely exist in everyone's mind, as well as be discussed. That impressed me very, very much. And I also watched the conference pretty fast. I had been able to find out some of this for myself before getting acquainted with the Creative Society. But that also impressed me very much. And I stand for the fact that we should do our best for a better society.
Und Stanislav, was hast du für dich mitgenommen?
Stanislav, would you like to share as well how important this conference was for you?
Den Stream bei YouTube gesehen.
Well, I happened to see this YouTube stream. It was actually on my playlist to the right, and I clicked on it. As with Benjamin, I already knew a lot beforehand, but there was also a lot that was new to me, and that was also very surprising. And the fact that it was all done by volunteers and translated into more than 100 languages struck me even more. And honestly, there were many moments I did have tears in my eyes, and a theme that really almost broke my heart, such as in the case of children. I'm also currently working as a school aide, that is with children with disabilities in school, and I would like to help especially those children who are not doing so well. And it was all revealed there, so to say, and I already knew what it was. I'd already seen a documentary or something like that. And this topic isn't exactly new, but why is it always just something shown, but nothing done? I get that feeling for some reason. And yes, sometimes you see something and it's so awful, and the next day it's out of your head, isn't it? And for a long time, I didn't know how or where to start my help. And then when I discovered the Creative Society, I really realized this is where I have to go. This is the right place. These are the people who think like I do.
Julian, and how it was for you?
Yes, for me it was also through TikTok that I became aware of the creative society. And first of all, of course, I was skeptical because you shouldn't necessarily believe everything you see and read on TikTok. And the best thing you can do is then simply double check, inform yourself. And the basics of the creative society for me are, I'll say, bulletproof. You can't find anything there to argue against why we shouldn't all live that way. And in times of so much division, I say we should all rather join hands and stand up for each other, and especially for human life and dignity among ourselves. And that's why, since I haven't found anything that speaks against it, I definitely have to stand up for it as well. So yes.
Yes, wonderful. This is indeed the initiative of people who want to bring something good to the world through their own efforts, and of the desire to create a humane world. They are committed to it, and they truly want to unite all people of the world in this common goal. Let's watch one of the video from the conference.
The world must wake up.
Climate summit in Glasgow. The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson urged world leaders today.
Le changement climatique est en marche depuis la fin du XXe
The
siècle.
climate crisis is not our fight alone, it's a global fight.
We see the warning signs in every continent and region.
It is the biggest problem humanity has faced ever.
Allah'ım yarabbim yardım et. Allah'ım yardım et. Allah'ım yardım et. Allah'ım yardım et. Arkadan gelenlere yardım et.
More evacuations are underway this morning as firefighters try to contain it faster than wildfire.
You can't say just go easy now. Easy. The car's heating up, it's gonna explode. Oh, Jesus, God, help us.
It's a terrifying moment. A mother is trapped in her car with her 4 kids while huge chunks of hail tumble down on them. She does her best to calm them down.
Oh, you're okay. It's okay.
Go, go! Go!
Just pull over, Jordy.
അപ്പോൾ ഒത്തിരി നഷ്ടം വീടെല്ലാം പോയി, കുഞ്ഞുങ്ങൾ പോയി, അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ വന്നു. ആ പൊട്ടി വന്ന വെള്ളം ഞങ്ങളുടെയൊക്കെ വീട്ടിൽ കൂടെ.
People feel that their workplace is changing before their eyes.
The tragedy is, this is not a movie. And the clock is ticking to the furious rhythm
It is a global challenge. We need to act. We feel the urgency.
The longer we fail to act, the worse it gets, and the higher the price when we are eventually forced by catastrophe to act.
This is the last chance.
We hear so many right words.
The climate crash.
But have those words saved us from climate change? Have those words prevented destruction of the environment? Our world is rapidly collapsing. What will be next? Are we able to change anything? This question has driven each of us to take action. Right now, with this live broadcast, a historic event is taking place. The International Online Conference, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth. 100 languages of simultaneous interpreting, organized by volunteers from 180 countries on the platform of the international project Creative Society. This conference will change the future if everyone watches it.
Ja, ich habe dann eine
Right.
Frage
I have a question for Benjamin.
Deutschland ist ja ein Land,
Germany is a country that puts a lot of value of sustainability and eco-products, organic products, waste separation. And how would our behavior change if people find out that this garbage separation is not implemented as it is supposed to be because it is too unprofitable and too expensive? And how would people's behavior change if they would find out what is actually done with this garbage then that is being separated?
Exactly. That's why I can speak first and foremost about myself and the people around me. For many, when they hear the truth, they separate the grains from the chaff, so to speak. There are people who absorb the truth and rethink the topic as a whole and their own actions in relation to it. The part that was also very important to me was the part that made me realize that recycling sounds good, but in a lot of industries you can see companies just throwing everything in the same pile. And a lot of people, I think, are also aware of that. That's right. People think that trash will end up in the pile anyway, and that you can separate the waste, but you don't necessarily make sure you produce less waste or buy eco-friendly things and so on. It's just ignored because the problem doesn't concern anyone at all. And of course, many people don't know, this is the bitter truth, about what's really going on with waste. I also noticed at the conference, and this was one of the things that touched or shocked me the most, that all the waste in Europe, for example in Germany, is sold abroad at a low price, exported, and people think out of sight, out of mind. And this garbage, you can research this topic, and it was very well described at the conference in great detail, from the words of eyewitnesses and so on. And the way it's handled is almost inhumane. They are simply meter-high, multi-meter-high mountains piled up with all sorts of waste. Industrial, hospital, radioactive waste. Maybe they put a tarp over it, then just cover it with earth and plant some trees on top so that no one needs to take care of it anymore. These are exactly the so-called garbage dumps. Here in Germany, of course, there are countless of them. I know from my past experience that there are some. And I don't even want to imagine how many of them can be found abroad. There is a garbage mafia that buys all kinds of garbage for small price and then just takes it out to God knows where. And there are certain industries which are strongly in favor of waste incineration or even waste separation. I don't know for sure, but this is then advertised in many industries as clean and environmentally friendly separation. But in the end, incineration and waste transportation is just a symptom treatment. No one knows exactly where it will end up. And the worst thing about landfills, as described in the video, is that the gases that can form get into the air, which harm people who live around. And these landfills are usually built near populated areas, and that can trigger diseases like nothing else. For example, some type of cancer, tumors, various lung diseases, and so on. That would be just the tip of the iceberg. It could also end up in the wastewater, in the groundwater. It ends up garbage in the ocean, and this is something very urgently need to persevere with in this world. And it's not just a matter of talking about it. And people either they take the truth for themselves and act accordingly and change their everyday life to avoid it, or people don't care. I would then also really advocate that more people learn about it, and that really the market, the producing market, builds less on plastic waste and other rubbery things, more precisely on non-biodegradable products, right? That we can prevent something like that in the future to curb the massive waste production a little more at some point. And precisely that would be nice if we could all manage to do that in the future as well.
Yes, it's a very, very important issue that maybe individually we all know about the fact that the environment is polluted. We are concerned about sorting garbage. We also want to consume sustainably or acquire things that don't harm the environment. But the problem is that we are all caught up in this system and its whole supply chain, and that vector of development is pointing towards destructiveness. And so you've presented very nicely what happens with the waste disposal, that no one is going to recycle costly, or it's associated with a high cost to recycle properly. And because actually in a profit-oriented world, the life is worth nothing, and one orients oneself only at the profit. And the fact that people suffer in the process is of no interest to those who enrich themselves in the process. We should approach the core of the problem, the root of the problem together, and decide this together and really unite in the decision. And we see that we are polluting our environment, that we are poisoning it, that we are cutting down forests. And at the conference, it was very nicely presented. There is a difference between ecology and climate. Some people may not be aware of that they are different things, and that ecology is equal to the immune system of the body, and climate change is just an epidemic for a special time, a cyclical process that our planet is going through. But the immune system of the planet is very much weakened. And so my next question is to Julian. How it was for you? What was your impressions and understandings of the conference?
Yes, the conference was about the time for the truth. And first of all, when I ask myself the question, what was the lie then? And when I then watched the conference, I found out that scientists had already proved that climate change is mainly of natural origin and that humans have very little influence on it. Then I just realized that the lie is spread by the media and that the consumer society doesn't really question itself, but simply believes what's on TV because people are very much driven by consumerism. And all the scientists get paid too, who then tell the media that people are causing the climate change by emitting CO2 and so on. But at the conference, I also found out that, for example, in Greenland, and this is very interesting, the glaciers are melting from below. And in some places in Greenland, there are already lakes formed just from glacial water. And that's because the Earth's core has heated up so much that volcanoes are now erupting under the tectonic plates, and all the glaciers are melting from below. In Antarctica, for example, it is also very interesting that only the western side of Antarctica is melting. And there can be no logical explanation for that, because in the north, west, and east, the temperature is about the same. That's why scientists from Germany and from the UK have been looking really hard into this, and they have noticed these anomalies everywhere. And at the same time, another factor is climate change. All of the droughts or the lakes that are disappearing. We also saw pictures in the conference of the Rhine, how all the water is almost gone there. And it is formulated in such a way that the planet breathes in and breathes out, so to speak. But we don't know what exactly happens when the planet exhales. In other words, you could expect big floods that the Earth just collapses inside, and many volcanic eruptions happen. I googled today, we have 27 active volcanoes at the moment. And that is very remarkable, especially that this everything still has consequences which arise further, like a domino effect, so that earthquakes and so forth can also still occur. So that is in any case the most remarkable for me, what I have learned there and have experienced. What has also shocked me and also honestly makes me afraid for the future, because nobody probably feels it to be very important or true.
Also es sind ja Klimakatastrophen.
Well, there are climate catastrophes in all parts of the world, and this also creates a limited space for living. In earlier times, there were refugees who fled because of wars, and now these climate catastrophes are creating so-called climate refugees because the habitat is simply changing because of periods of drought. On the one hand, it's the periods of drought that they no longer have water available, and the other hand, in other parts of the earth is the volcanoes, then it's floods again. That means that the people who live where these disasters happen lose their place where they live and have no possibility to escape and to leave their own place. That's when another disaster appears. And that is because so many people are forced to change their habitat. Human trafficking and child abuse has increased threefold, only alone by these climate catastrophes. And in addition, we'll see it in the next video.
In this video, we had to change some words and expressions using milder terms. But we hope that the severity of the problems looming over our society will still be evident. In the 21st century, human civilization boasts about its high level of intellectual development and incredible technological achievements. At the same time, at least half the world's population do not receive the health service they need. 8 million deaths occur every year as a result of poor quality of medical care. Healthcare costs are so high that they drive about 100 million people into extreme poverty each year. Living below the poverty line leads to an increase in child labor. Nearly 1 child out of every 10 is forced to work. Often, this work involves hazardous machinery and poisonous fumes. The list of products produced by child slave labor includes gold and precious stones, coffee, cocoa, rice, baby products, and clothing. According to UN statistics alone, more than 40 million people are victims of modern slavery. Forced labor, child labor, forced marriage, debt bondage, human trafficking for illegal exploitation, and recruitment of children for armed conflict. In the consumeristic format of society, people have already surpassed wild animals in terms of cruelty. More and more often, children are used as live bombs. In Nigeria, criminals put an explosive on a girl with a baby in her arms. After years of warfare, the economic crisis and drought have caused famine in Afghanistan. There is a well-known case where a mother was forced to sell her little daughter for 400 euros to feed her other children. Today, more than 41 million people are one step to death from starvation, and about 811 million people are starving. Meanwhile, every year, more than 1 billion tons of food are thrown away, and unsold goods, including those produced by means of slave labor, are destroyed. The absurdity of consumer society is that a human himself has become a commodity. Annual income from human trafficking worldwide is $150 billion, which is the largest source of illicit profit in the world. There are 534 human trafficking flows registered in 148 countries. The number of detected child victims has tripled over the last 15 years. Victims of traffickers are mainly migrants and jobless people, as they are the most vulnerable. International treaties proclaim goals of ending poverty and slavery. But in the context of a mass consumption economy, the whole system is designed to protect private capital. In the consumerist format of society, money is more valuable than human life. Worldwide, more than 2 million children a year become victims of trafficking for all kinds of exploitation. In Mexico, 25% of all women who are victims of trafficking are girls under 18.
Please help. My husband threatens me. He beats me. He forces me to have sex with his friends who come here so he can make money. They started beating me, pouring alcohol on me, making me drink, pointing a gun at me, saying they would kill me and no one would ask about me, no one would know where I was. And they opened the window and said, "Jump or we will shoot you in the head."
And did you jump?
Yes.
From which floor?
I think it was the 5th floor.
In the consumerist format of society, people are ready to kill each other to satisfy ambitions for fun and profit. Illicit trafficking of human organs worldwide is estimated at $600 million a year. According to WHO statistics, 10,000 human organs are illegally transplanted every year. In Nigeria, special baby factories are set up on a massive scale where children are bred like a livestock. Teenage girls are forcibly impregnated and coerced to bear their life commodity for sale.
But most of them are pregnant teenagers. They were held captive for one purpose, to force them to give birth. The kidnappers were making money on selling the babies. I got a call at 6 a.m. this morning saying that there were kidnappers at the school, that all our children had been kidnapped, including my daughter. We rushed there. It was confirmed that they had all been captured.
Are we human civilization if human life has no value on this planet? To change this, we all need to stop supporting the consumeristic format of society and unite in a common goal to build the creative society.
Ja, das waren jetzt.
Yes, it's very shocking footage. And in that context, I have a question for Stanislav. Child protection is very important to you. What touched you and what most valuable?
So right from the beginning when I watched it, I really had tears in my eyes, and the conference also did a good job of showing that people have become a commodity and children have also become a commodity. And even if it's not happening right in front of us, that doesn't mean we can somehow ignore it or anything like that. So who protects these children, these refugee children? It creates so many problems. For example, it was also mentioned at the conference that in some countries little girls are just being auctioned off. And that just proves that anything, absolutely anything, can be done with money these days. And money comes first, and it just breaks my heart. Because every child, they are so incredibly vulnerable in any way. So vulnerable. Kids just can't protect themselves. You can do whatever you want with children. And so adults really have to stand up for these children, not just somehow stand up for them, meaning, okay, now a new law has come out and 3 people are working on it, but we really have to try to change the whole world so that every child in this world is provided for. And that's just one thing. There are children who don't even have access to food or water or education. When they go to a source of dirty water because they're thirsty and they drink it, they get sick. I just don't understand why this keeps happening. Yes, I think people really need to open their eyes. I think a lot of people just don't want to see this truth because it's simply very, very gruesome. But I just don't have the energy to close my eyes to it anymore. And I wish people would realize at some point too.
Ja, vielen Dank. Ich denke, du sprichst vielen aus dem Herzen.
Yes, thank you so much. I think you speak from the heart of many people. And as you also also mentioned that children should have a special protection, the same way we had addressed the people who lose their livelihood due to the climate disasters. They also need support from the society. They need to be taken care of in a very special way because many of them could lose their loved ones. They could lose their house, their job, they lost everything. And sometimes it takes years when you interview climate refugees for them to recover. They need special protection, and in this consumer-oriented, destructive society, they only experience more violence and only more suffering. And we would like to put an end to that. And what would you say? How important it is to bring this issue to the world public and talk about this? How important is to raise these issues, Benjamin?
So this is already an extremely important issue, as the previous speakers have now all described it. These are unpleasant truths. These are patterns that repeat themselves. It's so hard for people as a growing adult. You usually have other worries with puberty and so on, with how do I make a living. That's when you don't want to deal with the suffering of the world, and for many that's too much. The truth hurts. It's up to us who have already internalized the truth or aspects of the truth, have already processed it over years. It is up to us, so to speak, to impart the knowledge to people who do not yet have this level of knowledge. First of all, of course, in a discreet and perhaps somewhat toned down form as possible, and offer support to people who would be really blown away by the truth, to give them an opportunity to participate in conversations, to turn to certain people. That's for every individual who is also for the creative society, or who generally has a very pronounced compassion towards other people. That's almost a natural thing, to be there for someone, to lend a shoulder and also to express their concerns sometimes. And that's what should be ensured in general, also by us. But that's not just a creative society directive. These are things that we really have to bring to the world in a long-term perspective. There's a nice saying, if you want change in the world, start with yourself. Something like that. And that's where you shouldn't force the knowledge on people now, but maybe point it out little by little and be open to questions, and also sometimes help people out of hard times should they not be able to handle the truth, so that you're just there for that, right?
Danke, Benjamin. Und
thank you, Benjamin. And how important is it to inform people about what was shown in the conference, about the real conditions in society, in the climate, environment, about all the issues that were raised as well? How important it is to inform everybody about it, and especially about the solutions to this problem. Julian, what do you think about it?
Well, I think it's very important to bring this to the attention of as many people as possible in your circle, because as has been said, it is an invitation to the truth, and some are ready for the truth, while others would rather live with a sweet lie than with the sad truth. But there will be many brave people willing to open their ears and their hearts and realize that the society we live in now is already broken at its core anyway. You just need to look at where the money is flowing, where from and where to, and you will be able to see exactly who is profiting from all this misery. First of all, I know well there's a prediction that the creative society could be realized in 2 years. And now many people are saying, yes, 2 years time, and then everyone will feel accepted and identify with the system. And if we now look back 2 years ago, we will also notice that the system came into being very quickly, and people could also directly identify with it and live with it. But there should be a sufficient number of like-minded people, and above all, people with a positive mindset in which human life comes first, rather than cash above human life. And what was most compelling to me about the creative society is that no group is excluded. Everyone is invited to be part of the creative society, despite their religion, nation, or nationality, or whatever, sexual orientation, whatever. Everyone is invited as long as they respect and value dignity and other people. Especially if people work together and for each other, we will certainly reap much greater benefits than we do now. Regarding, as it was mentioned before, all the children living in poverty, or victims of human trafficking, and all of this just cannot be. Somehow we have to deal with it. We have to solve all of these problems rather than continuing looking away.
Ja, das ist sehr schön zum Ausdruck gebracht, dass wirklich
Yeah, you have expressed very beautifully that creative society is a definition that means unification of all humanity in this goal to build a peaceful, safe world, a humane world. And Stanislav, how important do you think it is that we all join forces in this goal, in this desire, and to see of what is happening now on the planet and what is happening with global climate changes?
Well, personally, I had that feeling all my life. I was a very open person. I never understood why one nationality should be better than another or anything like that. To me, all people are equal, really all people. I'm no better than any other person in this world. And if we all came together, things would go a lot faster, you can imagine. I've often thought about this. Scientists in Germany do research here, and scientists in Russia do research there. And if they don't come to some kind of agreement, things go slower. But if the whole world got together and focused on something positive for all people, science could pretty quickly develop technology or something similar that would be good for all people and probably save a lot of lives. And what shocks me even more is this. Well, a certain topic is very much in the media right now, I would say. And if all these important things that we discussed here at the conference, if they were brought up in the media, then I think something would change pretty quickly. But I also know that you can't force the truth upon people in any way, and it has to come from within, from each individual, and for that we just need to reconvince them.
So, if we talk about creative society as a solution, what do you think specifically how creative society can help us? Benjamin?
In diesem Falle auch wieder von mir sprechen. Wie auch jetzt mein Vorredner gesagt hatte,
yes, in this case I can also speak about myself, like the previous speaker also said, that one has felt confirmed in a certain way, or that one has always carried certain aspects in one's heart. What the creative society can do is what it then did for me in that sense. It enlightened me when I had questions. It has been calm, without a lot of pressure, without time pressure in answering my questions. I offered my help on my own initiative, And then it was explained to me very warmly every time, so to speak, that it was all voluntarily, on a voluntary basis, and that we should not stress ourselves out. After all, we should also have fun, so to speak. It's a serious issue, but of course, we shouldn't break ourselves up over it. And exactly, we must not give up our everyday life now to make the world a better place. We are simply all one big family. The creative society stands up for this ideal, precisely. And every single member, every single participant of the creative society stands up for these positive interpersonal relationships. And this is a general thing that people have to carry forward. And that's exactly where the creative society has taken away a lot of my worries and fears, and even inspired me. And I can only recommend that to anyone else.
Ja, weil die kreative Gesellschaft, das sind wir Menschen.
Yes, because the creative society, it's us, it's people, ordinary people. 8 foundations of creative society proves that 99% of people want to live in a humane way. And behind the creative society are us, you and I, ordinary people who are searching for peace, who are searching for humaneness, human values, life, a society where no one can hurt one another, and where just people can come together to develop, to secure themselves, and just to live in a peaceful way, in unification.
Ja, das war eine
Yes, that's a very inspiring and informative discussion. And with you together, I would like to thank you all again very much for your time. And yes, it's about finding our way back to greater humaneness, that we simply learn again to communicate more from heart to heart, that we get more into feelings, into feeling each other, because that is what ultimately constitutes humaneness. This is feeling of unity, that when we get away from egoism and find our way back to being with each other, that we learn to communicate with each other more through feelings, to speak more from the heart, so that when we all unite, we can create a kind of bond, a love around our planet, so that the planet can heal again, so that it can last again, and we can achieve through our unity, through our inner attitude. So it starts with each human, it starts with us. I am because we are, to start living by this principle, to start being that, reaching out to each other. Yes, just leave ego behind and lock it away completely, simply approach each other with an open heart. That's what I wish for all of us, and I think that what you also can wish for us, and we can put that into practice. If we start to live like that, and if we set a good example, each of us, I think that we can then just exchange this example with each other. We can show this example, we can simply radiate it, and simply start radiate love around us. Yes, thank you very much. You are welcome to join the project via the join button on the creativesociety.com website. So you can also speak up and talk about humanist society. And now it includes people from all over the world. And this is up to each of us, how fast this idea will spread and how fast this we as a humanity will be able to build such a society for all people. You can also write us into email info@creativesociety.com, and we are grateful for all of your ideas and feedback and your insights, and we would like to close this conversation with a song that was written for the conference, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth. The theme song Time for the truth.
Anytime, anywhere, we're reaching out for love. Every time, every day, we're looking up above. We're waiting for an answer to bring the world some light. We need to come together to make the future bright. It is time for truth. Nothing to fear for anymore. We can open any door. It is time for truth. Tell the world what we're about. Stand up and shout it out. It's time for truth. Don't we know what to do to bring the world prosperity? Only way that is true is through creative society. Let's make the change together.